Welcome back to another conversation with Carl. Today I am very excited to be talking to Glenn Klausner. He is a nationally and internationally renowned psychic medium residing in New York City. He has conducted over 10,000 readings for people worldwide with loved ones who have passed over to the other side. He exhibited intuitive abilities in communicating with non-physical spirits at the age of 4 by making predictions and relaying messages for his family and friends. As a teenager, he further explored these abilities through his communications with the spirit world, and by the early 1990s, he began conducting readings for a growing and steady worldwide clientele. Welcome, Glenn Klausner, to the conversation.
Thank you, Carl. It's great to be here.
Thanks so much for doing this today. So when you say you exhibited intuitive abilities in communicating with non-physical spirits at the age of 4, can you explain what you mean by that, and how did you come to this conclusion at such a young age?
Great question. Well, it started actually by me seeing my mom's dad, who passed a few years before I was born, and I saw him in my childhood home, which was in the Canarsie section of Brooklyn, New York. And he would just be having these very simple, basic conversations. He seemed as normal as you and I do, friendly. His energy was friendly. And then I would just say certain things to my mom. It wasn't a lot. It was very small. And then she was like, yeah, that's your grandpa, my dad. And so that's how it really started.
Did you ever think that you were just listening to stories that they were telling, or you knew this was your grandfather talking to you?
No, I trusted that it really was a non-physical entity, what we call, we're spirits in a physical body. They're spirits without the physical body. So I really believed that that was him, especially if I said, like, grandpa's calling you princess. Now, granted, it could sound like any parent would call their kid, especially a daughter, call the kid a princess. But apparently that's what he used to call her. And so when she said that's what he used to call me, and I never heard it from her prior, especially being a 4-year-old kid. So I just trusted it. But at that young age, I was so interested in music and other things that I had been experiencing around that time. So I didn't think I was just some psychic kid until between my 9th and 10th birthdays. In those two particular ages is when I really started to develop a bit more of that psychicness, if you will.
So when you're 9 and 10, are you thinking this is strange? Or are you thinking, why are they here? Are you thinking every single person is having the same experience as I am?
I didn't think every single person was having the same experience as I am. And I didn't think it was weird. I just thought it was a very, I guess, unique. I don't even know if I really thought much about it. I think I was just having a conversation like the way I'm having a conversation here. So if I predicted something, let's say to my mom, and then it ended up coming true, I didn't really think much about it. I think it was just, to me, it was very casual. Nowadays, obviously, if I said something and somebody said, hey, what you told me actually happened, even I still get in awe all these years later.
Yeah. So what happens when we die?
Well, the first thing, it varies from person to person, but usually once we leave the physical body, a lot of factors happen because of a person's belief systems can be at play here. Most people who believe that when they physically die, that they are going to see their loved ones, humans and animals. And oftentimes it may not be, let's say, somebody's mom that comes to greet them. It could be their 5th grade school teacher who comes to greet them first. There's this great movie called The 5 People You Meet in Heaven that is a good indicator of that. And they do get to have a life review. So they see their life like a movie played backwards. So from that last moment, the last breath that they took, going all the way back to, let's say, birth, physical birth. And there's that life review, and they're just observing everything. There's a myriad of things, again. To give a short answer to this great question, it is definitely seeing usually loved ones that you would love to see. But again, it may not be that exact person you're thinking at first. That's why I use the analogy that it could be a 5th grade school teacher that you liked and thought was a nice person and felt like you learned something great in their education process of it. And then you just start to see other people, and there's that life review. But there's also this remembering and knowing of who we truly are. And from my own personal experiences with even my own loved ones who've passed, specifically my mom on the day that she passed, when I watched her talking to, think of like the Last Supper table, right? With Jesus and the people in the painting. It wasn't Jesus in this case, but it was a table like that. And she was looking at a group about a dozen souls, and they were interacting with her, and she was interacting with them, but I couldn't hear what they were saying to her. I couldn't hear what they were saying to her, and I couldn't hear what she was saying to them. So when that scene disappeared, and now she was talking to me directly, appearing to me like what she looked like as a 16, 17-year-old girl, I said, was those your guides? She said, yeah. I said, well, I couldn't hear what they were saying to you. And what you were saying, then she says, well, you weren't meant to. I go, come on, indulge me. Like, what did they ask you? She says, all right, they only asked me one thing. I go, what's that? She goes, they asked me, what did I learn about love while I was on earth? I go, that's it? She goes, that's it. That's all you're asked by your spirit guides when you cross over. What did you learn about love?
So, who are your spirit guides?
Well, they can vary. See, that's a thing too. So they're usually not your deceased immediate family members. They could be ancestors. They could be people you've known from other lifetimes. It really a little bit hard to answer that question because for somebody, it might be the dog that they had when they were 5 years old. It just varies.
So, mediums speak about being evidence based. Do you perform evidence based readings? And if so, how would you define an evidence based reading?
I do evidence-based readings, and I've been tested for by a guy named Bob Olson, whose website I've been featured on now for 24 years. So, for instance, the drawing behind you, that rose that you have on your table behind you, right? Let's say
Yeah.
whether I'm on the video call with you and I'm doing a reading, and I get the impression that you bought that at a street fair here in New York City, and you go, I did. Okay, that's
Okay.
an evidential thing as an example. But let's say I'm not even in a video thing. I'm on the phone with you. I can't see
Okay.
you. And
Yeah.
I bring up about that exact picture behind you. And you say, it's right behind me. That's also like would be evidential.
And I'm just going to play the skeptic here. How do I know you're so good at this and you've done 10,000 of them? They just come to you. There's a picture there. That's probably where you got it. I could be wrong because I imagine sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, not every reading I do, most of the time it all works out, right? It's the deceased person. I trust what they're telling me and I say it back to the person I'm doing the reading for. And then there's also times where maybe something doesn't gel at that moment. And then
Yeah.
the person thinks, well, okay, he's wrong, but maybe they go ask another loved one, for instance. That gets validated. But then again, because the timelines are fluid, for instance, especially with predictions, somebody could say, hey, that job didn't happen for me. But then maybe a year later, that exact job that was discussed a year prior can end up showing up. So it's really tricky to say, but there are some readings that not every reading I've ever done has always been like as amazing as I'd want. There's some readings that don't click and I let the client go. Of course, I don't take their money for the session, but I do my best to give evidential stuff that the person knows that I didn't Google them. I didn't find an obituary. It really was your loved one or loved ones interacting with me.
So if you're watching the Knicks game tonight, do you know if the Knicks are going to win or that's not what you're doing?
There's been times when I have done predictions of things like that, but generally I don't deal with
Okay.
it. Though I did predict the Super Bowl that happened earlier this year, I did predict that the Seattle Seahawks would win. And I actually have a video of it that's on my YouTube channel, but I didn't predict the next game for last night.
And then how do you protect your own energy and mental health? I imagine dealing with the people that you do readings for, there's a lot of heavy grief. People are very sad, and that could also play into your mental health.
Yeah, it's not just dealing with readings, even off that, going onto social media and seeing streams of consciousness posting what they're posting there or walking around New York City and feeling all the different energies. To me, I would say that the best, if you want to call it protector, really is just being in the vibration of love. I mean, you can call upon Archangel Michael if that makes you feel good or whatever you align with. It doesn't matter. Whatever you feel comfortable with that gives you that sense. It's the same thing like the people who wear objects around them, whether, that they, like I have a guitar in my neck, right? If I want to make it think, hey, this guitar is my protector, I could think that if I
Yeah.
choose to.
Yeah. And are you of the belief that anyone can be a medium, or is it special people, or how does this work?
Oh, I wouldn't say special people. All spirit beings have a human experience, have psychic ability. And you are the way to your loved ones. I always tell people if somebody says to me, you're the way to my loved one, I'm like, no. I am not the way to your loved one. You are. I'm glad to be that telephone line, the guy in the middle that can channel messages from your loved ones in spirit. But ultimately, every person on earth has the ability to communicate with their loved ones. And 9 out of 10 times, you'll hear conversations about people who do talk to their loved ones in the convenience of their home or in their car. It doesn't have to be at a place where the person is laid to rest, for instance. So really the key is to listen and trust what you are hearing from your loved ones, or if you were meaning like me, and trust what you're hearing from other people's loved ones. Because if you second guess it, You're not going to know. So even like a common name like Carl, right? Let's say you were reading me and I told you I have an Uncle Carl in spirit. And you said, "Hey, Glenn, do you have an Uncle Carl that's in spirit?" I would say, "Yeah." But if you sat there and think, "Nah, I doubt it," you wouldn't know.
Well, no, yeah.
Right. What's the worst that could happen? I say to you, "No, I don't have an Uncle
No.
Carl. I have an Uncle Carlos." You'd be like, "Okay, there's Carl. It's Carlos."
Yes. So I see. How does one realize that they have the ability to communicate with those on the other side?
Well, the evidence is there, the feedback. Like when I do a reading for somebody and somebody tells, especially when the stuff that comes out that's really obscure that you wouldn't even be thinking, right? Like let's say you're thinking, "Grandma, I want Grandma to tell me my favorite color is purple." We'll use that as an example. Grandma comes through and talks about how every time you used to come over your house, you used to ask her to bake you a banana bread, let's say. And you're thinking, yeah, that's true. But you in your head had, "Tell me the color's purple."
Yeah.
That's
So
what I
you look
mean
at
by like what's so cool. And you know that it is authentic.
when we hear that mediums are communicating with the dead, there often seems to be a lot of code language that insinuates connection, like we just talked about colors or referencing milestones. Why isn't there more direct conversation?
With deceased people, there are a lot,
Yeah.
in my case, there's a lot of times that there is where spirits, when they're channeling through me, I hear them pretty much word for verbatim. So I'm actually saying everything that they're saying to me. There are times where something, for instance, it's not like, "Hey, I'm Joe Beluga and I live at 613 Merry Way," or whatever it is. It depends. And so I wish sometimes, yeah, there was that kind of information. But what spirits are doing, because they're communicating telepathically through a medium like myself, they're, in my case, I'll give you a good example. A lot of deceased people will use pop culture references with me because I grew up as a musician as well. So they'll use, like, let's say if someone's father looked like Mr. C from Happy Days, I'm going to say that. Now, let's say you said, "I don't know what that guy looks like." I'm going to tell you, go on Google, type in Tom Bosley, Mr. C, Happy Days. And then you can be like, "Yeah, that guy looks exactly like my dad." So that's
Yeah.
how a lot of that stuff works with me, is in pop culture references as well.
So when they're talking to you in a way that you can understand, and then also you can also communicate that to people.
Absolutely. Because if a deceased person talked to me, let's say they didn't speak a word of English. They knew maybe hello, goodbye. Well, the language in the spirit world is universal. So they know that I don't speak these other languages. They're going to have to talk to me in a language that I understand. There are sometimes English words that spirits will use with me that I myself have to look up online what they mean, because I've never used them even outside of a reading. But generally, like let's say spirits are talking from in another language, I really wouldn't understand them fluently for me, because I don't understand all these other languages fluently.
And when you're talking to ancestors, how far back are they? Are they my great, 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 great grandmother would show up, or would it be my grandmother from that just passed? Was it mixed?
Usually, I don't go like hundreds of years back talking to an ancestor of yours, because it would be unless you had this family tree in history, it'd be very hard to validate it. So I mostly stick with people that you knew, or let's say, like I was telling a story that I used to see my mom's dad when I was a little kid in my childhood home. I didn't know him. He passed 3 years before I was born. I knew him obviously in another dimension, but I didn't know him in this one. And so for me, when I'm doing readings, I usually communicate mostly to people that you would have known during the course of this lifetime or know of.
Yeah. And so I imagine you deal with people that are very eager to speak with family and friends who've passed. How do you manage client expectations?
Great question. I don't.
Thank
I
you.
just let it. Yeah. I tell them beforehand. I prepare people. It's even written in the FAQs of my website that I can't guarantee a certain loved one's going to show up. They usually do show up because you love them and they love you. But I can't make a deceased person talk to me if they're not willing to talk to me, just like I can't make an earth person talk to me if they're not willing to talk to me either. So I just let the flow happen. And so let's say, okay, maybe the next door neighbor that you knew comes through and he wants to say hi to you. Maybe he wants you to be the medium and get a message back to his loved one or her loved one. And then your particular loved ones can show up. There's no perfect science of how mediumship works and the way spirit communication comes. I can add, for instance, if I'm doing a reading and 5 spirits are talking to me and you all know, and you know all of them, but one of them is not, none of the 5 are the ones you want to really hear from. I could ask for the spirit that you would like to hear from to come through, but again, I can't make them. I have to work with what I have. It's sort of like this cup of coffee that I have in front of me. I can't make this coffee into tea when it's already coffee.
Are clients ever disappointed?
Sure. I've had that
Okay.
happen. And like I said, I always prepare people. I treat people the way I want to be treated. I treat people as if they were my family members or my friends. And so I do my very best to really give what I can in a reading to someone. If they're disappointed because I didn't get their mom, but I did get other loved ones of theirs, I can't help that. I have to work again with what I have. And like I said a moment ago, I can't make any deceased person talk to me if they choose not to. And I don't know why that reason may be, but I do know that usually every reading I've done, somebody shows up. The rare cases where no one shows up for somebody could be this factor. It could be because the person I was looking to do a reading for decided in their head that no one was going to show up for them. And what the spirit
Yeah.
world said, we will mirror your thinking and we'll prove you right. And that's the only reason why a loved one may not show up. No loved one may show up at all.
When clients are disappointed, how do you handle that situation?
Well, again, for me, I'm lucky that it's rare that I have that. But when it has happened, there's really nothing I can do. Like, for instance, if a reading doesn't click within the first few minutes and I'm not getting anything, which has happened over the 30 years of my career, I totally end the reading. I don't take their money. I give it, even if they've already prepaid me with something like PayPal, I send it back to them. And they'll even ask me, should we try this again maybe later in the week? And I explain to them, look, I take that when a reading hasn't happened, I look at it the way like dating, that if I went out on a date with a woman and that didn't click, I'm not going to ask that woman out again. Take care,
Yeah.
God bless,
Yeah.
and it's the same thing with readings. So I let them know that, but I always tell people when I'm doing a reading that your only job is to let me know if it makes sense to you. Because if I do a reading and you're like, let's say I say your mom had, always wore green. That was her favorite color. And you're like, yeah. And now I'm telling you all this other stuff. And you're like, yeah, yeah, yes, and me. And throughout the whole reading. And at the end, you go, everything you told me wasn't my mom. I'd be like, you told me throughout the whole reading that it was your mom. See, that has happened on rare occasions, very rare occasions. And that I won't allow to be pulled over on me because it's your responsibility that if you knew that your mom never wore green, it's your job to tell me that's not true.
Yeah. And why you? Like, why does this happen to you? Have you ever thought about that? Or
Sure.
why am I? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I know from having astrologer friends that it's very heavily aspected in my birth chart. It shows it clearly in there. When I was a kid, my whole thing was wanting to be a professional musician, call it rock and roll star, whatever you want to call it. And that was where I was wanting to have a career at. And I've been very blessed to also make music and stuff like that. But the calling was so strong to me to be a medium that even at first I was like, nah, nah, nah. Friends of mine were like, you should be doing readings for people. Like, no, 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 no. And it wasn't until really it kept happening more and more to me that it was like, okay, I took it as whatever you want to call it, God, the universe, whatever was saying, this is your path. You're not meant to be a rock and roll star. You can look like one. You can still play music, which I still do because I love music. You can enjoy it, but this is who you are. This is your path. And even if I wanted to go do other things, I can. I'm not limited that I couldn't do another job if I wanted to. But I guess it's like sort of a calling, like why somebody becomes an actor or a lawyer or a doctor or a clergy person.
Do you believe in God?
I believe in that. If you can call it that, I believe in that higher power. I believe that we're all it. But I definitely believe that there's some intelligence form that got us all here. Because when you look
Okay.
up in the sky, I know I didn't put it up there. How did that beautiful blue sky that's right here in Manhattan today, how did that
Yeah.
get there? Wasn't me.
Yeah. And after sitting with so many grieving people and acting as a bridge to the other side, what has this work taught you about how we should be living our lives?
It all goes back to the same thing that my mom taught to me the day that she passed. It goes back to love. That's going to get me a little teary because to me, love is one of the greatest gifts there is, as you know, and it makes us feel good. We're taught that is. I mean, we're taught the words of love and hate and how we align with it. But when you think about people that you care about, even animals, you care, it's a beautiful feeling. If you and I walked down a street here in Manhattan and we knew somebody was hungry, really hungry, and the fact that we brought them something to eat and you saw their face light up and they were thankful, right? Even if they didn't say thanks, but they took the sandwich and they ate it. You feel like, you know what? I know I did something good for somebody else. And in our current modern day world, where there's a lot of division, as you are aware of in the world. For me, even, it's very sad to see it. And I do my best to align myself each day to be the best version of me that I can be. I don't think I'm better than you or anybody else on this planet, but I feel like I know that if I have a feeling that's not aligned in love, it doesn't feel good to me. I instantaneously feel it in my body.
And what if the spirits tell you something that you don't think the person wants to hear? Do you still tell them that?
Yeah, I'm mindful of, let's say it's a health issue with somebody, and
Yeah.
I'm always, because I'm not a physician, so I take great care, even if it's a message that somebody says, look, I've done this where I've told somebody, you got to go see a specialist, a certain doctor, let's say. And I'm like, I don't wish that on you. I visualize you in good health. I affirm you're in good health. And then sometimes when somebody's gone to a medical thing, they found out that they had something there that, needed to be addressed.
And when you're walking down the street, not talking to anyone, do the spirits just show up all the time, or
No.
do you have to be in a certain place to
Yeah,
get them there?
luckily not in this city. But it has
Okay.
happened to me it has happened to me on some occasions where I've let's say he was talking to somebody on the street, on the avenue here, and then their loved one has popped up in front of me in that moment. It's like, they'll be like this. Can you
Yeah.
say something? And I'm like, yeah, all right. But very rarely, but thank goodness when I'm walking around on these avenues here in the city that I'm not looking at a bunch of deceased people. I would never want to go out.
Yeah. I mean, there's my spirits on the other side. Are they talking to you right now? Because you
No,
haven't.
but I mean, I could.
No, no. You don't need to, but I'm just asking, like,
No, no,
if
no. At the
they're
moment, no.
hovering. No, okay.
No, I
So they're
would tell
not
you, I'd be like,
hovering.
"Hey, there's a woman over there by the flowers that says her name is Francine," as an example.
Okay. Okay.
And I don't always get the names of the deceased people. So, believe it or not, even sometimes the most simplest name like Joe doesn't even tell me anything. But
Okay.
Joe's married. Let's say Joe used to smoke cigars one after the other, and you're like, "Yeah, that was my grandpa. He smoked. He was a constant cigar smoker."
Yeah.
That's To me, those are the cool little evidences because a spirit tell me the name Joe tells me nothing.
Yeah. No, I'm just curious to how this all works. And as we begin to wrap up here, is there anything that I should have asked you that I didn't ask you?
Well, you asked a lot of great questions. And I will say that, even to this day, I still get fascinated by the readings that I've done for people, especially when the person has validated back the information that I'm even in awe. I'm like, there'll be sometimes a client will say something to me that I've said to them in the reading from their loved one. And I'm like, really? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, wow, I'm in awe. Can I give you a quick example of something?
Yes. Yeah. Give me. Yeah.
So when I lived in Florida for a decade, and this in the early 2000s, before my mom even passed, there was a couple that came to have a reading with me in an office that I had. Now, so they were sitting in front of me. The wife was to the left of me, and the husband was to the right of me in these two chairs. And the man had a shirt similar to yours, was buttoned up. So I couldn't see if he had a chain on him because it was underneath, it was buttoned up underneath him. This female was between the two of them, and it was a woman who said, I was 30 years old when I passed. And at first I thought maybe it was their daughter because they fit the age group that this girl could have been 30. It ends up being it was the man's sister who passed away at the age of 30. She says to me, do you remember when you were a little boy? This is telepathically she's saying to me. I bought a charm for Mother's Day from my mom that says live, love, laugh. I says, yes, of course. She says, my brother is wearing that on a chain underneath the shirt there. I said to myself, all right, I'm going to ask this. And what does this man do? When I tell him, he unbuttons the top buttons of his shirt and he pulls out. Now I have this live, laugh charm actually on here. And not his, this is my own.
Yeah.
But he pulled out and he showed me. And I swear, Carl, I sat there. I was like, oh my God. And he said, how did my sister know that you bought that as a kid for your mother for Mother's Day? I mean, it was my dad actually gave me
Yeah.
the money to buy for my mom because I was a little kid. But I said, that's the mystery to me. Like, I guess what deceased people do is they go searching through my life story and maybe can find a little nugget like that, such as that charm, and use it. But what that to me was so fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, those things happen, and that's what we're talking about is evidence based.
Right.
And I think a lot of us want to have one more conversation with our loved ones after they pass. We want that one more to know that it's okay. We want one more to know that everything's going to be fine. And I think it's also for us to know that, as I like to say, when we wake up dead, that we are going to be okay.
Yeah, there's a saying that, first of all, we don't have to have one more conversation with a deceased loved one. We could have, we're not bothering them. We could talk to them consistently. Believe me, I've had my dad, who was a big skeptic, makes himself known a lot to me. He's been deceased since 2013. But I think this whole world that we're in, this what they call a matrix or whatever you want to call it, is it like a dream? And a lot of it doesn't seem nice like a dream, but it's like a dream. And the real true awakening is when we do return back home to the spirit world. That's to me the real, because in spirit, deceased people aren't, they say there's places are haunted. Yeah, there's maybe energies and that stay, and that it's kind of like an imprint. There's sort of like a thumbprint on a glass that stays there, right? But when people cross back over, there's none of that ego. The ego is gone. It drops. So all the judgments that they've had when they were here on earth towards themselves and towards others is completely gone. But I will say that doesn't mean that our deceased loved ones don't warn us on certain things about people that are here on earth. It has happened even to me that I've gotten heads up from the deceased loved ones of mine about sometimes something. And I listen to them because I trust them that they're not going to steer me in some offbeat direction.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we want to know, that, because there is a lot of ego in us. There's a lot of our fears drive a lot of what I think a lot of us do. Our judgments are because we're scared we're going to be left behind. We're not going to be included. And that causes a lot of this resentment and fear and anger. And I think that, this goes to the bottom line of everybody. I think everybody just wants to know that they matter.
It's true.
Yeah. And I think that that's what, when you're talking about love and you're talking about your mom coming over to talk to you, that's what the love is. That's what we're trying to find out. And I think we're all trying to just live a human experience.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, even if you're just loving your life, look, we don't have to like everybody on the planet, but we don't have to hate them either. But we can, I think the importance is that if we love our lives and we love who we are, we love just life in general, and love even simple things. You having a podcast, me being a guest on it, having a cup of coffee, it goes a long way.
yeah, but that's what I think we're just trying to do, we're just trying to figure it all out. This has been a really interesting conversation. Glenn Klausner, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you out there for listening as well. Let me know what you think. Put your thoughts in the comments. And until next time, everyone, be safe.
Thanks, Carl.